Hey everybody, nearly 4 hours later, I'm back again with Paul Rietzel. How's it going, Paul? How's your night?
Good, I hope for better than a 1-2 record with my deck, but um, tough matchups against your deck and Huey's deck, who just happen to both have lots and lots of blue and in your case black removal as well, which was tough for my auras.
Yeah, so you defeated Owen. You lost to Huey and me.
Yeah, beat Owen, lost the two of you, and uh, it felt like the games that went normal I lost, and then I also lost a few games that were kind of non-games, like
hmm
um, game where I started with 7 mountains, and against Huey I discarded 4 times before playing a second land. So these things happen. That's magic, no big deal, and just had my teammates bail me out.
Yeah, well, it's all down to our teammates now. The score is 4-3 in favor of Peach Garden Oath, but pretty even match so far. If memory serves, we haven't had any matches in Team Draft Super League go to match number 9. They've all been pretty, like, you can tell early in the night which team is going to win. So this one, I'm not too humble to say that this might be the best match we've had so far in Team Draft Super League.
Yeah, and this. I think this next match is could likely be the determiner. I think that Matt's kind of slower defensive combo ramp deck matches up pretty well against Owen's Sacred Cats and Anointer Priests. So I think that this is the match where Huey's really solid, good curve. Blue-white flyers might give Dave some fits. So we're going to need to get lucky here, I think, and have Dave pull this one out.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I actually haven't gotten to see much of Huey's deck. He told me at the start of the event that it was a medium blue-white deck, and that he had just barely gotten 23 or 24 playables, didn't have any choices in deck building. But so far, he's just steamrolled. I mean, I think I had a chance to watch one game on the stream when he played against you, and you were just mana screwed, but he killed you on, turn 7 with a bunch of flyers. So, not saying that I hope Dave gets mana screwed, but I hope Huey continues the trend of steamrolling everybody.
Yeah, well, if when you have a chance to take a look at his deck list, you'll notice that he has two of the most powerful cards in the format in his sideboard, in the form of Ronus the Indomitable and Insult to Injury. Now, obviously, he ended up a white-blue deck, so he's not using either of those. And just the way the draft developed, he wasn't able to fit either red or green into his plans. So he ended up with like a pretty medium blue-white deck. But like I said, good curve, flyers, certainly lots of interaction in the form of bounce and counter magic and decision paralysis and Jeru's Resolve. The kind of deck that a player of Huey's caliber can operate very effectively. So, and historically, those sorts of white-blue flyers with ground defense decks have done pretty well against medium white-black ground aggro. So interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. They're ready to go. Welcome back. Here we are for William Jensen against David Williams. Peach Garden Oath has game point here, so if Huey wins this match, the night is over. If Dave wins, we go to a 9th deciding match, which we have not yet seen in Team Draft Super League.
And Huey's draw was missing just one piece, which was the basic island, which he found on the first turn. So, if you're Dave, your hope was that Huey wouldn't be able to put together kind of a defense for your early ground rush. Unfortunately, he's gonna have to find a different plan.
Yeah, so Huey will be trying to use, perhaps high toughness, but in this case, embalm blockers on the ground to, hold Dave off and make sure he doesn't lose a quick game, then he'll be looking to draw into some of his bigger flyers like those Shimmer Scale Drakes and win in the air, which I think is a little bit of a weakness of Dave's deck. We've seen him get into board stalls and then not have great answers to big flying creatures. So I think that's the plan Huey's going to be looking for. To follow up on something you said a minute ago, Paul, we have seen these Flyers decks perform pretty well in team draft, and one trend that I've really noticed is that decks tend to have a lot less removal than they would in just a normal traditional 8-man draft or even sealed deck. We saw, I think, John Finkel and Jamie Park in past weeks splashing Final Reward in off-color decks, which is Final Reward is not even a card that most people are very excited about in an 8-man draft, but splashing it just to get access to that effect, that's so hard to come by in team draft. And I think that absence of removal makes big flyers a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. And in this case, Huey, your teammate, has put up the defenses. Dave was able to sneak in a quick 4 by exerting the Spearmaster there. But now they're kind of settling into a board stall where both players are kind of looking for a way to break through. Of course, we know that Huey's deck contains many, many more flying evasive creatures and tricks. And so he's hoping to draw one of those before Dave's Tog-Crop Elite or something like Lord of the Accursed.
Yeah, that's one that's going to change this board state quite a lot, Lord of the Accursed, because if there's one weakness of blue-white, it's dealing with a creature that has an annoying non-combat ability. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Accursed has 2, the Pump the Zombies ability and the Give Menace. So what started out as a pretty stable board for Huey with 3 blockers is now going to be a completely untenable situation if he can't change things.
Yeah, and Huey kind of flooding out a little bit, which is really what Dave needed to be able to get himself back into this game. So he'll have a turn here that's kind of an interesting decision. Does he want to deploy the Lord of the Accursed and get started attacking now, or take one turn to get Tog-Crop Elite out and go for a huge turn next turn?
Yeah, good question.
And he goes for the latter play, and I think that's something. I like that play. I think that he's correctly reading Huey for having flooded a little bit and wants to completely try to turn the game around next turn. He may force Huey to use his decision paralysis completely defensively.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about these 2 flash cards in Huey's hand and what we might see out of them later in the game. It's
a card we've talked about quite a bit. It's extremely versatile, and here it's going to be used to potentially block as well as remove one of Dave's attackers from combat. Decision paralysis is a card that's been printed in many iterations over the course of Magic history: Frost Breath, Blinding Beam, different effects of that nature, and is just a classic staple of the blue-white archetype, which is looking to kind of race in a tempo kind of way. In this case, decision paralysis, as I mentioned, is just going to be used to kind of stem the bleeding a little bit. Mm-hmm. Huey doesn't think he can afford a huge Tog-Crop Elite, Lord of the Accursed fueled combat.
This is exactly the type of situation the blue-white deck does not want to face, where your opponent, you're the one blocking, your opponent's at 18, and you have to use your card disadvantage tempo plays just to survive, because at this point it becomes so hard to get traction to shift the race in your favor to where your spells start doing what you originally intended them to do.
And this is something that happens sometimes in limited Magic. We saw that Huey's opening hand matched up pretty well against Dave's opening hand, and since that time, Huey's drawn lands to spells at about a 2-to-1 ratio in favor of lands, and Dave has drawn spells to lands at about a 2-to-1 2-to-1 ratio in favor of spells. And so, if your spells are a little bit worse, but you're drawing many more of them, sometimes this happens.
Yeah, cards like Decision Paralysis really exacerbate the problem of Mana Flood, where it's like you are unable to trade your card on a 1-for-1 basis.
Right.
And you wind up just having to be down a card when you use it to defend yourself.
Yeah, it's never a card that I'm a big fan to play. It's quite good when you're slightly ahead, and oftentimes pretty reasonable in a very close game. But when you're behind, it's really, really rough. And here we see Dave with a slight decision point. He elects to go for that big attack we talked about earlier rather than committing Honored Hydra to the board. And I like that decision. I mean, he wants to be able to put Huey in a bad blocking situation using Top Crop Elite and Lord of the Accursed as quickly as possible before Huey finds countermeasures.
All right, so the Vizier is going to take out the Sacred Cat Embalmed token. That's just a clean, get rid of it. It's not coming back. But now he's got 4 blockers against 2 creatures that are not easy to profitably block in the Flyer and the First Striker, and then 3 Menace guys. So his best options are not very good here.
Yeah, the problem here is that there's no way to start chunking away those 4/6s. So he's going to be forced to do some creative doubling on smaller creatures and then maybe even throw in a chump block along the way. But he's not making any headway in terms of dealing with Dave's board. And while he may get a slight reprieve next turn as the Top Crop Elite can't exert, he's going to need to find multiple somethings in the next turn and a half sequence to get back into the game.
Right, he's actually forced to chump block the Spearmaster. The way the math works out, he's going to go to 1, and I'm not seeing a way out of this.
Has to be like Angler Drake. No, even Angler Drake doesn't even give you another turn here. Island is definitely not going to do it. Soldiering on with that 3 points, though. I believe the first tiebreaker for the playoffs is damage dealt. So. Well, that's, from the perspective of the Scottsdale Foundation, that's what we needed. We needed to steal a game like that where Huey kind of mana flooded, and now we're thinking, all right, one Huey mulligan or one perfect draw on behalf of Dave, and maybe we get to force that, that first 9th and final match. So
yeah, I agree. The last thing you guys want is a fair game.
No, yeah. If I want a fair game, I'll go to Las Vegas. We see Dave, this is something that happens sometimes in team drafts. Dave has a bunch of cards like Those Who Serve, which, they provide some zombie synergies, but are otherwise pretty weak against, Shimmerscale Drakes and Ancient Crab and that sort of thing. But, because it's a team draft, he just doesn't have anything else to say.
Yeah, there have been several matches tonight where I, study the deck list because we have access to the deck lists. I really know the game 1 configuration by heart. Then when we go to sideboarding, I go check what's in the sideboard. And it's like, oh, nothing. No cards in my opponent's colors that they could possibly bring into their deck. So you had some kind of creative thing going on with Floodwaters after sideboard there. Did you bring in the Warfire Javelineer too?
No, I didn't bring in Warfire Javelineer against you, but I did beat Owen with the Warfire Javelineer. But I brought in Floodwaters and the Blue Trial, as well as Painted Bluffs and Pyramid of the Pantheon, and actually ended up beating Owen by casting Floodwaters off of a 3-brick counter Pyramid of the Pantheon. So,
wow, I never would have guessed.
Wasn't my plan when I drafted my deck, but sometimes you have to improvise, as Dave is with Trespassers.
Yeah, what's his goal with this card?
So Trespasser's Curse is a card that, from basic fundamentals of Limited, is not a card you want to put in your deck because it's difficult to get a full card's worth of value out of it, and it's terrible to draw in the middle to late game where it's going to have almost no function. That being said, on turn 2, Trespasser's Curse can end up draining your opponent for quite a bit of life. And in a situation where Dave is expecting to be in kind of a race versus blue-white flyers, draining for 4, 5, 6, even 7 over the course of a game, could very well be worth the card that he expends. Certainly not a card, when we draw a draft that we're hoping the Trespasser's Curse is going to be in play. But if we are going to have it, we definitely want it in play on turn 2.
Yeah, it's a lot of those small edges in limited come from finding ways to use cards that nobody else is using. Not always. Sometimes it's identifying cards that you should never use, but perhaps in this case, you guys as a team have found a corner case used for Trespasser's Curse. And it looks like it's going to be okay in this game.
Yeah, already, drained for a couple, and certainly Huey's not in a position where he can just stop playing creatures. So, I think Dave also figures he has the Wayward Servant in his deck as well. So maybe he's thinking he can put together between those two cards some sort of a game plan that doesn't require him to attack through Huey's formidable defenses.
Edifice of Authority and some lifelink blockers are going to draw the game out, making the curse even more effective than it might otherwise be.
Yeah, and again, the question here is sort of is not one of is Trespasser's Curse an objectively strong Magic card. Everyone agrees that it's not. And, even subjectively in this matchup, it may not be particularly powerful. The question is opportunity cost, right? What did he take out? Because he had several, extremely weak cards against white-blue in his main deck. And, if the option is to have something that could potentially steal you a game versus something that's going to almost certainly be low impact, that's, a chance that I think Dave wanted to take.
Yeah.
I'm just checking here, looking at Huey's deck list. Does he have any way to gain life once he's lost it? See, one Sacred Cat. And that's it. So, so again, with the Trespasser's Curse, again, maybe you find something like a Wayward Servant. You squeeze in damage here and there. Dave may be thinking that's the potential path to victory.
Yeah, that's certainly an important dynamic. In this game, I think it's going to require Dave having like 1 or 2 pretty decent attack steps in order to get Huey in that range where the life loss is going to matter. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to drain him out for 16 from 16, for example.
Sure.
But you do make a really good point, and that's an important dynamic against a persistent life loss card when you have nothing in your deck to recoup. Whose position do you like from here?
Yeah, so I think that right now Huey is slightly ahead just because he has in his hand 4 pretty powerful combat tricks, which I think he'll be able to use to great effect. What Dave really needs is something like Honored Hydra or some other large and evasive threat that will cause Huey kind of a headache and force him to use those spells on defense. Jarrow's Resolve here is going to be used to trade 1-for-1 for Tawcrop Elite. And
I think part of the reason Huey's doing this now is it's the last turn before the Edifice of Authority is going to have 3 brick counters. In other words, the last turn before the Edifice is going to be able to stop a blocking creature.
So you got a message there. That Magic Online will be taken off for maintenance in about 4.5 hours. Certainly we'll be able to finish our
Man, I hope so. It's been a great match, but it's been a long night as well.
Indeed. So Huey might be thinking, see, this is the tough spot here. I mean, already kind of down to 13. He's aware that Dave has Innocatcher's Name in his deck. So, he's not sure how aggressive he wants to be on this turn. He could go for a big Innocatcher's Name fueled attack, but he does risk taking a bunch of damage on the crackback. And as we mentioned, there's the curse in play, and he's never getting any life back that he loses.
Yeah, part of the problem with trying to set up a big attack is Dave has these completely disposable blockers. So if Huey puts his creatures at risk representing a card like Innoketra's Name, Dave just has so many options that include blocking in a way where he can't really lose that much, Just as one example, he could put enough power on Watchers of the Dead that it's going to die, and then just chump block Unwavering Initiate with Sacred Cat, and this forces Huey to, play his trick just to save one of his weaker creatures, but it doesn't really decimate Dave's board the way he really wants it to.
Wonder if we'll see Gale Strike get used here.
Oof, taking away that token from the supply caravan. Very nice.
From the perspective of Dave, we're hoping for low impact draw steps from Huey. The one sort of weakness of his deck is that past 6 mana he's not able to use lands very effectively. So he really wants to stop with this 6th land, maybe a 7th if he needs to embalm his Aven Initiate, but anything after that is really going to be kind of a wasted resource, and he doesn't have any way to loot away or sink those extra mana in.
All right, so I'm envisioning the next 1, 2, or 3 turns being really important in this game. Dave being tapped out, this is a good opportunity for Huey to set something up. He could, for example, use Binding Mummy to tap one creature. He could use Winds of Rebuke to take out another blocker, and he could use Innoketra's Name to force through extra damage. I think more likely he'll make a big attack here and plan to use Winds of Rebuke at some point to deal with the Edifice of Authority. I guess it's tougher now that it has 3 brick counters.
Right, because even if he were to try to do it on Dave's end step, Dave could respond by using the Edifice, and that effect would still last through Huey's turn. So, man, we've seen the Edifice really overperform tonight.
Dave makes a genius block against the Innoketra's Name. This is sort of what I mentioned, where Huey's forced to either say okay and bin his Watchers of the Dead, or he has to use a trick to not that great effect. 2 extra damage, still not killing the 2/4, and killing 2 creatures that Dave's honestly pretty happy to have go to the graveyard.
Yeah, and that's one of the unique phenomena of the Super League format, where we share deck lists after the first round. That Innoketra's Name is a card that you will sometimes play in white-blue, but certainly not always. In this case, Dave knows 100% it's in Huey's deck. He doesn't know that it's in his hand, but he knows it's a card in his deck. And when he sees an attack like that, he's going to be scanning his deck list and thinking, that's a pretty likely card for him to have in the situation.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. Dave got a little fancy there. He played his creature intending to post to afterwards play a land and use the Edifice, but Huey bounced the Edifice with the creature on the stack. Dave had no mana to use. That could be a deciding play in this game, letting the Talkrop Elite attack and exert.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to turn what would be a really kind of harmless attack step from Huey into an absolute nightmare. Although, Huey does have to worry about Dave arranging some kind of blocks that could kill him on a counterattack. So he's going to have to think about this pretty carefully. It's actually, the 2 flyers are going to get in for kind of a free 7. But none of the ground creatures attack that effectively into Dave's board. So, the net effect of this, I think, is going to be that, oh, wow, he's going for it. So he has to block everything. Is he dead?
Has to block at least 4 things.
Oh, no, he's not dead, because even if he were to eat the Unwavering Initiate, Huey could just embalm it. So Dave is now in the situation where he needs to draw something. Do you like attacking here with the Supply Caravan and the Blighted Bat?
Yeah, he has one freebie turn where he can stop the Aven Initiate and doesn't have to worry about getting hit in the air. So I like attacking with more or less as much as you can afford.
I think the Caravan and the Blighted Bat certainly I would bring in.
Yeah.
Ghost Surf seems a little aggressive to me, but I'm would have to think about it a little bit further. The upside of the super aggressive attack here again is that Trespasser's Curse.
Yep.
Huey down to 3 is not a lot of wiggle room, but I think that I like this more conservative play from Dave.
I don't really see much reason for Huey to block here, although he couldn't bomb the Initiate, but I think he really just wants to draw a spell this turn.
Yeah, any spell. So both players drawing bricks. Interesting to see how Dave uses his edifice on Huey's next turn, and what the attack step looks like here also from Dave. Some thoughts maybe sending in Sacred Cat as a suicide mission. Because if he sends in the Sacred Cat and the Blighted Bat, right, then he knows he's going to go up to 4. Then he can lock down Top Crop Elite, and he knows that he won't die on the next turn. So that'll put Huey down to 3. Very interesting situation. Actually, I'm not sure.
I think Huey would be relatively okay trading Aven Initiate for Blighted Bat because he'll get to embalm it, whereas he risks playing an entire game where the Edifice just continuously locks down the Aven Initiate, and he never gets the value out of the 2-for-1 that he feels due to the embalm.
Sure. Interestingly enough, the embalm will also put Dave back up to 4, which is a pretty important life total when there's a 3/2 Unwavering Initiate and a potentially exerting Top Crop Elite as well as the returning Aven Initiate.
Man, you said it earlier, Paul, but look at the life totals. 3 for Dave, 5 for Huey. This Trespasser's Curse has been in play all game. The game would be over if it had been, most other cards in the format. Just like some kind of average 2-drop creature, the game might be over.
So this attack is going to force a tough decision here for Huey if he attacks with these 2 creatures. He's forced to block at least something. The most obvious block would be to double the Supply Caravan. Then he would lose his Vigilance creature. Interesting. It's an interesting ordering, too, here.
It is. And he's going to be down to 3, which is such a crucial life total because assuming Huey plays or embalms even one more creature over the course of the game, that means most of Dave's threats are lethal if they get through.
This Trespasser's Curse is just it's so interesting. What a cool game. So already, Huey's in a situation where between the 2 embalmed creatures and the Labyrinth Guardian in his hand, he can't put all of them into play. So one of them is just gone.
Oof, that was a big draw step for Dave. Him not finding a creature here feels like it keeps Huey in the game. Now, Dave's not dead. He stops one of the flyers, and because of the curse, he's up to 4 now. So he's not dead in one hit, but he can't really make profitable attacks.
Yeah, I think this is a great attack here from Dave. This is super interesting because if Huey double blocks, then Huey gets to, then Dave gets to take out one of his flyers. If he doesn't double block, then he's going to be facing, you know.
I think he should double block because
he has to.
If he just chumps, he doesn't kill Dave, and then is threatened by 2 lethal attackers next turn. So I think his best plan is just to double block with, you know, I guess Takrop Elite and Watchers of the Dead, and hope that Dave has all lands in hand, which turns out to be exactly the case. But he beats the board this way, whereas, you know, since he can't play a long game with only 1 more creature to cast under the Trespasser's Curse, he has to just play to beat the board. And also remember that the Edifice is going to be fully charged next turn to be able to stop creatures on defense.
I'm missing something here. I don't see how Huey can win the game without drawing a really good spell now. He needs to draw a spell, right? Or he loses.
Yeah, I think he needs to double block.
I mean, I guess his hope here now is that Dave doesn't go for it next turn.
He can, if he doesn't attack, he's not dead. He can play 1 more blocker and just pass with 3 creatures. But what's the long-term plan there?
Right. You can never attack. I guess he has to draw a spell that gets something through before Dave draws anything.
Like that decision paralysis we saw last game.
That would be this would be the time for it.
That's a game changer too. Impeccable timing for David Williams.
Right. So we talked before about the players knowing deck lists here. Dave will be kind of eliminating the options that Huey could possibly have. You know, decision paralysis he can't play around. Gale Strike is almost certainly going to beat him. Mighty Leap is something that, you know, was certainly going to beat him already. The one card he may think about in the situation that Huey could have that he hasn't utilized yet is Cancel. And so may be afraid to go for a combat with Impeccable Timing. Oh, but the Impeccable Timing, we just take out the Labyrinth Guardian.
Yeah, funny you mentioned Mighty Leap as a possible out for Huey. Is there any way the Labyrinth Guardian is a bit of a liability here, not being able to target it with your own combat tricks?
Possibly, yeah. Wow. Trespasser's Curse, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's one of the best cards you can possibly have in a black deck, and should be taking it highly and putting it in all your decks.
I feel obligated to give the "don't try this at home" disclaimer.
Let's see. What did it do? It drained for 7 this game? Something like that.
Okay, Paul, we got a match number 9 ahead of us. Owen Turtenwald versus Matt Sperling for all the marbles.
Yep, one of the top players in the history of Milwaukee against Lawyer at Sick of It in his 3-color ramp deck. So I got to admit, that was the match I thought we really needed to win. I'm confident in my boy Matt, but either way, it's been a really fun night, and I think you guys have acquitted yourselves well, and I hope we get one more great match.
I hope we win. All right, we're gonna cut to ads, and we're gonna be back with the 9th and final match.
Looking for a challenge? Magic Online offers monthly limited and constructed events, which lead to the yearly Magic Online Championship. Download Magic Online at mtgo.com and start earning the points you need to enter. Check out Amonkhet Booster Draft Leagues on Magic Online. Draft anytime, play anytime. Available now. For more info, visit mtgo.com.
Represent your country at the World Magic Cup at national events. This September, you can compete against your country's best players for the title of national champion. You need Planeswalker points to participate, so keep playing in local events to qualify. Learn about qualifying for nationals at magic.wizards.com/national.
So we just saw Dave Williams deal William Huey Jensen his first loss of the evening, bringing it to a deciding 9th match between Owen Turtenwald and Matt Sperling. So you've seen these guys play already. Matt has a pretty nice blue-green splash red ramp deck, and Owen has a, just run-of-the-mill white-black kind of aggressive zombies deck. So you told us you felt pretty confident in your team's side of this matchup. How do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, and this is, we should say, an elimination matchup, as whichever team loses this match is out of the Team Draft Super League and cannot be champions. So it really all comes down to 2 or 3 games between Matt and Owen. Yeah, so this is interesting in that Matt is going to do kind of basically the same thing every game. He's going to be trying to ramp into something really powerful, like a Sandworm Convergence or Greater Sandworm, or cast something like Heaven and Earth to sweep Owen's board. Owen's deck has 2 different decks, right? There's a black-white aggro deck and a black-white defensive deck. There's stuff like Dread Wanderer and Aven Mind Sensor and Grim Strider that could give Matt a lot of headaches. Then there's other stuff in his deck like Sacred Cats and Anointer Priest, which, when Matt is ramping into extremely powerful late-game spells, are not going to be able to put sufficient pressure on Matt to put the game out of reach. So basically, let's see which half of Owen's deck he draws, and hope that Aven Mind Sensor doesn't completely bury Matt.
Yeah, that'll be one of the key cards. Let's go down to the match. All right, looks like it's going to be Matt Sperling on the play with an excellent hand, actually. Turn 2, he's got one of his best 2-drops, and then he can ramp with Spring to Mind, and even has a Cycler in case top of his deck doesn't deliver a land. That's just what he wants. Owen on the other side has a totally fine hand. Anointer Priest is not the most aggressive of the two drops. You mentioned he'd much rather have something like Dread Wanderer, but there's that Aven Mind Sensor that could prove to be pretty annoying for Matt's deck.
Yeah, I just hear the die roll so huge as if Matt chooses to fire off Spring on this turn, he'll be able to get in under the Mind Sensor, which is just so big when he has these 6 and 7 mana cards in his hand that he wants to be casting.
I think one of the really important dynamics of this matchup is going to be Cartouche of Strength. Matt's main spot removal is 2 copies of Cartouche of Strength. So it depends so much on the early game. If Matt can have a nice draw where he sticks a high power creature early on, like turn 2 or 3, that really opens a lot more doors to him. Whereas if he's trying to fight back from behind from a completely one-sided board on like the 4th or 5th turn of the game, it's a lot harder for him.
Wow, great draw there from Matt. As Vizier of Deferment, we've talked about a few different uses of that card so far. Resetting a creature that puts -1/-1 counters on your own cards is another use for it, especially when people try to spread them around. Here, Vizier could be used to reset the Cartouche, or the Exemplar, but I think Matt's going to choose to censor it here.
Yeah, it works out well with his manas. He can censor and cycle Floodwaters, looking to set up a land drop for next turn.
And what he really wants to find is Basic Island.
He found it.
Basic Island. Now, if you're Owen, do you try to set up the 4-power First Striker this turn, or you just put the Mummy? Was the Mummy out?
Owens planned around Lay Claim really carefully by making sure he put no good cards in his deck to get stolen.
So Matt's going to use Winds of Rebuke here to tempo 1-for-1, which is okay. I think I would have preferred to see him cast Mind on this turn, but certainly continuing to lean on Owen with the Exemplars is perfectly reasonable.
So do you mean that you wouldn't have attacked and would have cast Mind instead?
Correct.
Matt's in really good shape this game because, as you mentioned, Owen's real game plan is going to be to try to set up some kind of persistent threat with the Cartouche of Solidarity, but Matt has either Lay Claim or a Cartouche of Strength to deal with it.
Yeah, here the Cartouche math works out really well for Matt, as he's able to fight a 3-power creature and bring his creature's toughness to 5 versus a 1-power creature. So kind of what you dream about when your opponent taps out and you have the fight Cartouche.
Right. There's always that funny dynamic of like you fight their best creature, but then you don't want to attack because your creature already has damage on it from the fight. Mm-hmm. But in this case, he just gets to have his cake and eat it too.
And in this case, Owen is going to have to set up at some point, barring drawing something new, a fairly grimy quadruple block in the near future.
Yeah, it's his only choice. You're right.
And with that Heaven to Earth in Matt's graveyard, of course, Owen's got to be thinking, geez, 1 red mana and anything I commit to the board is just kaput.
Did that Heaven Earth get milled off Winds of Rebuke?
It did, yeah.
Wow, that's huge. Potentially huge.
Yep. I mean, Matt obviously, not playing too many sources of red, so he's going to need to find, something like a Gift of Paradise or just draw the second mountain naturally, as Spring to Mind and Oatra's Cultivator will be unreliable sources of red mana versus Aven Mind Sensor. That's a reliable source of red mana.
Yeah, and it works out well to cast Naga Vitalist and Emberhorde Minotaur in the same turn here.
And even if Owen were able to somehow stabilize versus the significant beef that Matt is currently committing, he has the access to Mind and Lay Claim still. So, tough spot for Owen. I don't know. do you see an obvious way out of this?
Well, I think what Owen's probably thinking about is how can I not deal with the exemplar of strength, but instead somehow try to race with my lifelink and my Talkrop elite to pump them up. He's trying to set that up, but Matt can simply lay claim the Talkrop elite, and everything's gonna fall to pieces.
Yeah, not to mention, he could just Earth for 2 or for 1 this turn, and that's going to make really, really difficult combat.
That's right.
Owen's going to have to just bin his Anointer Priest if Matt Earths for 1. Owen's best hope is for Matt to have not seen that he milled Earth off of Winds of Rebuke.
Which is possible, especially with the Magic Online interface.
Sure.
I had Matt, in my match against Matt, he cast Naga Oracle, and the cards just get put in the graveyard in arbitrary places. So I had no idea how many cards he had stacked on top of his library. I've heard of people with Naga Oracle or a Grim Flayer hit, you have to take a screenshot of the before and after picture and then study the graveyard to figure out exactly what happened.
I can't tell you the amount of times that I've activated a Summoning Sick Inkmoth Nexus on Magic Online and tried to attack with it. So Matt may be thinking he doesn't want to fire this Earth off, or he may not know about it. But I can't think of what else you'd do. We have 4 hours left to finish this match. All right, so he goes with the lay claim plan. Interesting. Just about the worst non-land draw in the deck for Owen.
Now, what Owen's thinking about here is he dead on board if he doesn't hold some kind of card to create uncertainty in Matt's mind.
There's some growing evidence that Matt is not aware of the Earth here. Oh, nope, never mind. So now he is going to go for the win. I wonder if when he cycled Censor, he saw the Earth in his graveyard.
That would be funny.
And this may not be lethal, but it will certainly remove all of Owen's creatures from the board. May just be lethal.
All right, I'm getting a little nervous. 1 game away from possibly being done here. I think there's still some hope, though. Owen's going to get to be on the play for one of these 2 remaining games. And like I said, I think the dynamic of Matt having an early creature to wear Cartouche of Strength is so big that there's a lot of room for things to go wrong from Matt's side. So going to hope that Owen can capitalize on being on the play, and I'm going to hope that Matt doesn't have quite as smooth of a draw as he did that time.
Yeah, and that game could have been entirely different if Owen had been on the play and Aven Mind Sensor had foiled Matt's Spring. So, really we see the power of Matt winning the die roll there.
Yeah. I will point out that Aven Mind Sensor has the look at the top 4 clause instead. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking for just a basic land, you actually still have a pretty reasonable chance of finding it, but it would just be the most outrageous blowout in history if Matt actually had to cast Spring and didn't find anything due to an Aven Mind Sensor.
Although in that case, he wanted specific lands, right? I mean, he ended up needing
specific colors, right?
Blue and the double red that game for him to completely execute his game plan. So, so we see Matt, as we talked about a couple hours ago, and we saw Decklist bringing in Rags to Riches. which we felt like would be pretty powerful against O of Owen's top crop elites.
I love that Owen has brought in Mighty Leap and Ronus's Monument here. Mighty Leap's actually, funny enough, it's one of the best cards for beating Sandworm Convergence, since you can declare your creature as an attacker and then give it flying afterwards. Almost one of the only ways to punch through. Yeah, I like Owen's sideboarding, just shifting more aggressive, and I like his opening hand here also.
What do you think about the decision to save Sacred Cat for the Oketra's Monument?
I don't know. I like it, I guess. No reason to want to, rush your opponent down to 17 or something. You're more planning to set up a winning board state.
Right.
Matt has a great hand, though. This is going to be a tough one.
And Matt has a huge decision point already. Does he want to play the Oracle and try to find more mana, or does he want to just go beat down with the Minotaur and he goes for the latter?
Yeah, the fact that he has all his colors set up and Heaven Earth in hand is going to make it so hard for Owen to win.
Very aggressive attack. I think if I were Matt, I would just be concerned about dying, given how strong the cards in my hand are. So I'm not sure how much I want to get this 5 damage in.
So at the end of the turn, Owen's going to flash in Aven Mind Sensor, make another token, and then can attack and punch through 6 damage. It's pretty good, but it's a long way to go.
That's a good draw.
Yes, Supply Caravan. Although the token's soon to bite the dust, the Caravan itself will live through Heaven Earth.
And if you're Owen and you see Matt blocking a Sacred Cat with Naga Oracle instead of a Vigilance creature, does that tip you off to Heaven Earth?
That's a good point. It should register as a little bit funny in Owen's mind, though I wouldn't necessarily conclude Heaven and Earth for sure. It could mean that Matt is holding out some kind of hope of racing, and he actually doesn't want the lifelink to stick around forever. Or, I mean, if that happened to me in a tournament, I would maybe just think my opponent hadn't thought too hard about it, or is misjudging, the race math, something like that.
Yeah, but that's what we see why Owen Turtenwald is considered by many people to be the best player in the world. I mean, I think he did think about that in the moment and chose not to embalm the Sacred Cat. And while he's in a really bad situation here, he's going to find himself able to rebuild an army a lot quicker than he would have otherwise.
Yeah, really good. And look what's happened to Matt is he's out of counters on Channeler Initiate. Still no blue mana, although I wouldn't be surprised if he had stacked an island on top of his library with the Naga Oracle.
And Spring will be able to find his second. Yeah, Matt really kind of has it set up here.
Oh, Owen might go for a double block and risk getting blown out by Spidery Grasp.
Oh boy. Not going to work well. This is going to...
He even put the extra Sacred Cat in front there.
And that just decimates Owen's remaining resources. Hard pressed to figure out a sequence of draws that could get him out of the situation.
Right. The problem is he has to both stabilize the board and he has to win before Matt can cast those 3 or 4 outrageously powerful cards in hand.
I was thinking that kind of the best path to victory involved drawing Grimstrider and then Matt never finding a 7th mana to steal it, but
It's a very aggressive move by Matt. I don't think he has to be in quite this rush to win.
Could be that his wife wants him to go to bed. Yikes, what do you even target?
Probably the Channeler Initiate. If I'm in Owen's seat, I'm sort of just hoping that Matt doesn't have good cards left in the tank, so I would rather neutralize an attacker even at the expense of giving him more mana.
Unfortunately, Matt's going to love the mana from Channeler Initiate.
Yeah. On track to play a 7-mana card next turn.
And then another 7-mana card, and then assuming that's not enough, draw 2 more cards and start playing more things.
Boy, maybe I shouldn't have passed that Heaven and Earth.
Well, a lot of people passed it, right?
Yeah, a lot of people passed it. It's true. Matt was on the opposite side of the table from me.
I passed it because I thought there was virtually no chance that Huey was playing red. And then Huey continued to pass it along. And the Pitiless Vizier is one of the cards that, with a little more of everything, could kind of do something, but unfortunately, it's going to become Matt's Pitiless Vizier. And and again, even if Owen's able to kind of cobble together a block that can trade off for this, oh, there you go. White Cartouche on Wasteland Scorpion does nicely.
Yeah, first strike Death Touch.
So now this mind from Matt is going to have to find the killing blow. Ugh.
Huh. So he can't cast Rags, which means he can't cast Riches yet. He'll be looking for a Swamp or a Gift of Paradise.
Or Ashtra's Cultivator or his other Spring to Mind.
In the meantime, Owen's got to find a way to win this game. He's bought himself a lot of time.
Yeah.
But he needs to set up something with the Mighty Leap.
I wonder if we'll see a situation where Matt finds a green Cartouche and then puts it on Pitiless Vizier to fight the Wasteland Scorpion.
Well, you called it. Really hope he puts it on Naga Oracle instead.
Yeah, that wouldn't work out as well. Ooh. So hopefully Matt knows that he can press no here. I believe he does.
It's a little easier when it's on Magic Online and you're actually just faced with the yes/no option.
That's pretty
okay. If Matt finds non-black producing lands for a few turns, Owen can win this game.
Ooh. There's black producing land right there.
Yeah, and even though the land comes into play tapped, it will turn on the Naga Vitalist as a second source of black mana, so we're going to see Rags cast this turn.
And he'll actually end up being able to attack with his Greater Sandworm as well. Oh, he milled the swamp off of Winds of Rebuke.
Oh, wow. Is that going to decide the game?
Well, Matt's not dead, so he's going to get to draw more cards off this Spring to Mind and be able to find something.
On the board, it looks to me like he's dead next turn.
Right. He's going to need to find something in his top 3 cards here.
Does he have any other sources of black mana? Painted Bluffs, anything like that? Ooh, it's 2 forests.
Just the Gift of Paradise that I know of.
Man, the sweat. Oh my God. Comeback of the century right here in match number 9.
Amazing. Really impressive. Owen never gave up, kept pushing all of the edges, and Matt milling the swamp off of Winds of Rebuke is going to cost him this game. What do you think, Reed? You ready for Game 3, Match 9?
As ready as I'm going to be.
I mean, Matt couldn't have known about the Mighty Leap, but interesting to note that if he had put the Cartouche on Pitiless Vizier, Owen would be dead.
Yeah, the Sandworm would have just crashed through. Wow, unbelievable game. Owen must have been sub 5% to win from certain positions there.
Well, if Matt had not milled Swamp, I would have said sub 1%. Once seeing that Swamp was no longer a potential out, yeah, maybe give him 5%. Fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way Matt's deck has played so far tonight, this looks like a really bad matchup for Owen. I'm still holding out hope that, a 3-color deck with expensive spells, there is some kind of failure rate there of maybe not hitting all the colors right away, or not curving out nicely, having a green cartouche with no target for it. That's what we're going to need, because if Matt has the draws he's had in the first 2 games and gets to be on the play for Game 3, I don't see Owen winning, but his deck is, 2-color beatdown deck. So if Matt misses a beat, Owen can capitalize.
Matt's hand, pretty mediocre, but keepable.
Yep.
Owen can't see that 7th card. He's hoping it's a creature that costs 2 or 1.
Yeah, but he's keeping regardless of what that 7th card is, I think. Top Crop Elite, actually a pretty good card in the matchup.
Mm-hmm. And if Matt knew Owen's hand, he would know that he should be doing everything possible to just find 2 black mana this game.
That's right. Gift of Paradise would be the best draw.
We'll see if Matt chooses to cycle that Greater Sandworm on turn 2 to help smooth his mana.
I would you?
Yeah, for sure. I want to make sure I'm casting Spring or Gift of Paradise on turn 3 or something of that nature.
Cursed Minotaur matches up pretty nicely against Naga Oracle as the first play from Sperling.
Mm-hmm. We should be able to see pretty easily what Matt does with this Naga Oracle here. Certainly he puts Forest into the graveyard, which is very nice. He would not want to have drawn Forest here.
What would you do with Mountain if you saw it?
I think I'd also put Mountain in the graveyard. I think when you see that Owen has not played a creature on turn 1 or 2, you have to expect that his hand is filled with goodies.
Oh, the Cultivator is such an awkward mana ramper here because it doesn't get him from 5 to 7. Yep. He's going to have to wait 1 full extra turn, but it will get him his first swamp.
So we know that Matt left his top card on top of his library, which is interesting.
I think Owen has at least one more turn before he has to be really worried about Heaven, Earth, Rags, Riches. So he can pretty safely play out another creature here and just try to unload as much damage over the course of the next 2 or 3 turns as he can.
Yeah, he's actually threatening lethal next turn. If Matt doesn't find a way to double block the Naga Vitalist, double block the Cursed Minotaur, because he has 7 plus Mighty Leap plus Painful Lesson. Oh wow, he can just go for it. Oh, Windsor Rebuke. I'm working through the whole thing here. It's late at night.
Well, I predict we are going to see Owen go for the win here and Matt to set him back with Windsor Rebuke. But the good news for Owen is that it means Matt won't be able to crack the Cultivator this turn if he is forced to cast Windsor Rebuke.
True.
So, say for the sake of argument, Owen attacks with both and uses Mighty Leap on Cursed Minotaur. Matt will bounce Cursed Minotaur and take 3 damage down to 7. Owen has exactly enough mana to recast the Minotaur. But Matt will have blockers on the ground next turn. So the game continues.
I wonder if he just takes it. He could just take 9, go to 1 here, and die to Painful Lesson.
Oh, it would be so sick.
He goes with the safer play. Wow, he mills Blessed Cat and start to finish. Brutal.
Wow.
I think that's it. Oh, no. Not it. I keep forgetting the Top Crop Elite is exerted.
The good news for Owen is that if he gets his Zombie Lord into play, that's 2 creatures that will survive Rags. Matt has the type of hand where if he's able to cast all his cards, he should win the game, but his life total is pretty low, and he's gonna have to walk the tightrope for the next turn or 2. Make sure he doesn't just lose.
Considering lay claiming the non-exerted Top Crop Elite here, is that possible? Interesting. My first instinct was to cast Spring this turn, but let's see what Matt chooses to do.
So this is really good for Owen being able to cast the Lord and attack into the 2 creatures with the Minotaur.
Mm-hmm.
Matt will either go to a very precarious 3 life, or Owen will get to kill a creature of his choice.
Alternatively, it is an option to play the Lord and then finish one of Matt's creatures to guarantee he gets 4 damage in.
That's true.
You would have to lose Top Crop Elite here, but
I think he should focus on getting more creatures into play. Continue to put Matt to the question. Make him make the first move. And Matt can't cast Rags this turn, so he might be dead.
Yeah, I can't see a way out of this.
With Owen having a removal spell and 2 points of direct damage, it takes so much for Matt to survive this attack.
interesting, that game 2, the decision with the green cartouche, which creature to put it on. I don't know what cards Owen has in his drafted pool that would have made the Oracle the right decision, but obviously Matt would have taken a look at that and thought about what the possibilities were there. Well, congrats, Reed. Good luck to you in the next round.
I'm at a complete loss for words. I had given up hope in game 2. This game 3 was a great game. It was a fitting end, to match number 9, game 3 there. But game 2 was unbelievable. I had completely written Owen out of the game.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was totally over. I mean, Matt was a situation where he had 2 7 casting cost spells plus a divination against Owen's nothing, and Matt was already ahead on board. And Owen just kind of chunked his way back into it. He cobbled together the Wasteland Scorpion and the White Cartouche, had the Mighty Leap to protect from the fight spell, and then eventually found the Talkrop Elite and went wide enough to win. And then we just witnessed game 3. So you guys are moving on. You'll have a winning into the top 4 coming up shortly. And we should tell people that we are taking 1 week off for the 4th of July here in the States. So you'll note our next broadcast is July 11th, Channel Fireball versus Limited Resource, and that'll also be a late start.
Yeah, that's right. And that will be to determine which of those 1-0 teams advances directly to the top 4. After that, we'll be on to round 3, where the 1-1 teams face off for possible elimination or possible spot in the playoffs.
Well, congrats, Reed. You guys just keep on doing it. That's why you're the number 1 team in the world. My hat's off to you, and I'm sure you're ready to go to sleep, and so am I. So to everyone who stayed up with us, thank you.
Yeah, good games, Paul.
Good games.
See everybody next time on Team Draft Super League.
Good night.